Welcome to my first vegetable garden. Today is January 9th, and I'm doing a series of videos through January that really show you how to buy seeds and plant seeds. And what I want to talk about today really is a seed starting mix. I have a lot of videos on this channel and my other channel that show you different seed starting mixes you can use. I also have a way that I make my own. But I recommend, if you have it in your area, to buy Jiffy. This bag is a 12-quart dry bag of Jiffy seed starting mix, and it'll cost you $5.50 to $6.50. I find this is a really nice formula for holding moisture and starting seeds, and if I had to use just one product, this is what I would use. I'm also going to talk about the seed cells and the different ways that you can start seeds, but let me just start with the Jiffy mix. When you're starting seeds indoors, you want a seed starting mix that holds moisture, and you want something that's very fine. This is a mixture of, usually it's vermiculite, peat moss, and sometimes perlite in there. This is, again, it's a dry mix. It's 12 quarts. This will really fill up a lot of your seed cells. The way you prepare it is get a bowl. Because it's dry, you want to pre-moisten this before you put it in your seed cells. If you don't, what happens is you end up with a dry mix in here, just like that. You'll put your seeds on, and when you try and water it, the dry stuff, it's almost like powder. It floats, it doesn't absorb the water, it really messes up things. Whoops. So you definitely want to pre-moisten your seed starting mix before you get it ready. I get warm water. Sometimes when you buy these products, this is an organic and a natural product, and they do spend time outdoors, you can end up sometimes getting fungus gnat eggs in your different products. And I'm not saying every product has it, but some ways that you can defend against that is I'm using very warm water right now, but you could put in boiling water into this. The boiling water would get absorbed just like you see it happening now, but it would also kill out any kind of insect eggs. If you're making your own product and you're using peat moss that's been outside, it's a really good idea to use boiling water to kill off any eggs that might be in there. The other thing that you can do is you can put this into a bag, or you could actually put in that whole Jiffy bag into the freezer and freeze it for 48 hours, for 2 days. So once the seed starting mix looks something like that, when you squeeze it, it stays together, but it breaks apart easily. It has enough moisture in it, and it's ready to go in your seed starting cells. Now when you go to the store, you're going to see, I'll get back to the mix in a second. When you go to the store, you're going to find a lot of different things that you can buy. Usually you find something like this. It has 72 individual cells in there, and it comes with a plastic dome. I don't use the plastic dome. The plastic dome keeps moisture in. If you're growing your seeds in a place that is extremely dry and you can't go down and check on them, then I would recommend the dome. But if you're in a home and the temperature staying 60, 70 degrees, you've got plenty of moisture. The dome is only going to trap moisture on your seedlings, and that's really an environment for fungus and diseases, so I don't recommend that you use it. To fill, well, let me just say, so when you find something like this, it comes with a dome, and it's usually anywhere from $4.50 to $5.50. You don't want to overpay for anything. It's a nice plastic container. I'm going to show you how to bottom water. You don't need anything fancy, but just a simple basic setup that looks something like this for $4.50 to $5.50. Again, that seed starting mix I think was $5.50 to $6.50 for 12 quarts. That's enough to get you started. And it's not really that expensive because you can reuse these year after year. And an individual transplant, like if you buy a tomato transplant, that's going to cost you $2 or $3. So you're going to save a lot of money. Let me show you how to fill this, and then I'll show you some of the other products. So all you really do is take your cell, loosely pack it in. I call this thumb packing, and I have a lot of videos on this. And again, my videos may vary a little bit, but don't worry about following it exactly. Just worry about the principles. So you're putting in pre-moistened starting mix, press it down with your thumb, and then put on another layer. This is ready for for planting for whatever you put in, and I'll do plenty of planting videos as the season goes on. You would just press your thumb on there, maybe a 1/4 inch deep, read the instructions on the seed pack, drop some seeds in there, lightly cover it, you're good to go. It goes back into your tray. Now you have seeds set up in a pre-moistened seed starting mix. They're going to grow. I recommend this setup. This is over really 15 years I found seed cells, starting mix, no dome, put this under grow lights, very successful. You can buy other things. Let me move this. I've done videos on this. I use this for herbs. These are pressed peat moss, and when you add water they swell up. What will happen is these will grow plants perfectly fine, but because they swell up and they're moist, they're going to grow lots of algae and fungus on them. It's not a problem, but you will get that. And I also find that these I guess this is cotton, but whatever they use to keep this contained, it doesn't break down in one season. In fact, it takes at least 2 years for it to break down. Anyway, that causes a little bit problem with the roots. I prefer this. I can just pop the plant out when it's mature. The roots go right into the ground. There's no wrapping or anything around them. And this is what it looks like if you go to the store and buy it. And again, I think this actually, I got this last year, but it cost maybe $4.52 or also. So now sometimes you'll see, and again, Jiffy brand, you'll see these are pressed peat pots. I don't like these when compared to the plastic. I'd rather have the plastic. This is great, it's biodegradable and all that, but it's not really needed. And again, these stay moist. So they will grow white fungus, black fungus, algae will grow in there, like here in Maryland Zone 7, there's algae in our water. So you wonder, where's the algae come from? Well, it's in the water, and then the lights are on 16 hours, so it grows algae. And they tend to break apart. I don't like them, I don't use them. I've had these now for maybe 2 years. I recommend this. Now sometimes you'll be seed starting or growing bigger plants that just don't do as well in here because it's just small. The root system gets bound up really quickly. So if you're starting cucumbers, I recommend buying something like this. I'll show you an alternative in a second too. These can be reused, and you fill them up. I'm going to step away. They fill up the same way. Fill it up, press it down, add more soil, and then your seed starting mix looks just like that. So for cucumber, squash, zucchini, watermelon, cantaloupe, beans even, the bigger plants that get big leaves and bigger seeds really, I would go in here. I just press down about 1/2 inch, drop one seed in each of those, cover it up. This is a way to seed start my bigger seeds. Now, things are going well. Let's say they're growing. How do you water everything? Watering is kind of difficult if you don't use this technique. 72 cells. If I just put in some tomato seeds in here and I'm like, okay, that's dry, and let's see if this is on camera, and I go to water this way, watch what happens. It leaves dents, it's not even, and it splashes everywhere. So suppose there was a disease on here. I pour water in, it hits the disease spores that are only affecting this plant, splashes over to here, splashes over to here. Soon you're spreading diseases across your plants because of that water splashing. Plus you saw how hard it came down. I don't know if you, well, let me take it up. If you can kind of see in there, it leaves dents. So it's possible you splashed your seed out when you do it that way. Never water from the top. You don't need to do it. Take out 2 of these. A little bit of splash. Let's see if I can do that more safely. Fill this up, maybe 1/4 of the way, 1/3 of the way. There are holes in the bottom here designed just for what I'm doing. These will absorb water from the bottom. Leave the water in there 30 minutes to an hour, pour out any excess water. With practice, you'll be able to put in the right amount of water. Pour out the excess water. Now you've watered everything as quick as it was just pouring that into there, not having to go across the top and splash everything everywhere. And that's really one of the best ways to water. Now, suppose you don't, want to spend the money to go out and $4.50 for that. You can use styrofoam cups. You can reuse these year after year too. Make sure you poke a hole in the bottom. And the plastic container that comes with this is really good for this. Flip it over, fill your cup up with your seed starting mix, and just drop them in here. You would plant, just press a little bit in there, drop your seed in. You would water the same way. You could pour water right into the plastic. It will, because of the hole in the bottom, the water will be absorbed from the bottom and work its way up to the top of the plant. This could go into grow lights if you have that. If you have a south-facing window, it could go in that window. I'll talk more about lighting in another video. Move that out of the way. And then finally, feeding. When your plant is just starting to germinate, the seed itself actually has nutrients for the plant. So when it germinates, it's really feeding off of the seed. After the plant has germinated, anywhere from a week to 2 or 3 weeks after that, you're going to have to feed them if they're still in your cells. And it really depends on your plant, so I can't give you an exact amount. All I want to say is, I use a chemical fertilizer like Miracle-Gro. You'll hear organic fertilizers, you'll hear chemical fertilizers. Plants do not care what kind of fertilizer you use. Organic, chemical, whatever. The product, the nitrogen, the phosphorus, the potassium is the same as the same as the same. You only have one kind of elemental, nitrogen, phosphorus, all that kind of stuff. So the plants don't care, we care. Organic fertilizers are better for your outdoor gardens that have soil life in it, microbes in it, because they break down the organic fertilizers. The organic fertilizers help feed, like for instance fish emulsion is an organic fertilizer. This feeds the microbes and organisms in your soil while they break it down to make it ready for your plants. However, this smells bad. I don't want to use this in my house. And there's no soil life in starting mix. So organic fertilizer doesn't make you an organic gardener because you're using it on your seedlings. Organic gardening is a method of raising your garden. How do you tend to plants? How do you care for them? It's not just going and buying organic products. So I use a chemical fertilizer. This is Vigoro? I actually thought it was always Vigoro, but Vigoro I guess. It's an all-purpose plant food. It's a chemical plant food, which just means the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are treated by human beings to become available for the plants. It means ready, available. When you put this into the water, the plants can use it right away. When you use organic fertilizer, microbes have to break down the fertilizer so that the plant can use it. Indoors, I recommend a chemical fertilizer, a fertilizer processed by human beings. I also recommend you use it at half strength or even quarter strength. We're told too often to use too much fertilizer on both products, organic, not organic, whatever you want to call it. We don't need that much fertilizer. You just need a little bit. So how would you do it? After about a week to 3 weeks, depending on your plant, you follow the directions. If it says 1 tablespoon per gallon, put in half of a tablespoon, put in a quarter of a tablespoon, and this was the gallon with the fertilizer. When you go to water it, you just bottom water just like that. And you pour it in, and your plant will get the fertilizer that it needs. So what we covered today really is a basic understanding of seed starting mix, which I recommend to make it simple. There's Jiffy Mix right now. You can get more complicated and check out my other videos if you want to make your own. The basic apparatus for starting your seeds, different kinds of containers, a way to water, and a way to feed them. So I hope this gives you some information if you're just starting out gardening and makes it a little bit less complicated. And remember, it is a little bit of investment to buy these things, but you can reuse them. So over time you save money, and it really does pay off because one, it's a lot of fun. It's something to do here in Maryland Zone 7 in January and February and even March. And you end up saving money because you're growing so much for pennies rather than spending $2 or $3 for a transplant. Please check out my blog at www.theroastedgarden.blogspot.com and also check out my other YouTube videos. Thanks.